straining for that logo on the side of your helmet and not the name on your back?
Yes, sir.
Because we know what it represents. It represents everybody here you see and everybody you can't that we've talked about. I'm here to strain with you, man. I swear to God, I'm here to strain with you. Let's go. Everything you got, strain with everything you got. Let's go. Bills on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bills.
You're listening to the Off Tackle with John Fina show with your host, Joe Miller. Well, what's going on, everybody? There's the crack of the can to officially start the show. The Off Tackle with John Fina show. Welcome, everybody, into the Off Tackle with John Fina show, brought to you by Q42 on the Buffalo Rumblings vidcast network that will drop on Tuesday as a podcast, where several thousand of you will listen to this in podcast form. We want to welcome you guys as well. My name is Joe Miller. I'm the host of the show. And that over there to my left, your right, is the one, the only, maybe not the only, but the one, John Fina. How are you, John?
Hey, great to be here, buddy. Victory Monday. Cheers.
Victory Monday and Tuesday, Victory Tuesday and Victory Wednesday.
That's
Victory
right.
Wednesday.
Start with
great
today.
hat. Great hat on that beard. Wow, on that beard. It's really good. Not bad. Like, that was a good pour. Super good pour. So where did you watch it? You didn't get to watch the game live, right?
No, I watched about the first quarter and a half, and then I went to lunch with a couple of my brothers, my sister, and my mother. And then I went back and watched it online. And so that was kind of hard, to do that. I like to catch games live, but I guess my mom is more important than the Buffalo Bills.
Well, I won't be going to this week's game because my mom is in town staying with us as well. So I'll be at home on the couch watching this week against Indianapolis. So real quick before we get this whole thing really kicked off, we are Super Chat Live. So if anybody wants to ask John a question and you want to get our attention, if we're rolling on something and I'm not paying attention to the comment sections, I'm not necessarily ignoring you. We're just having conversations. So if you want our attention, super chat us. Also, like and subscribe. So jump on that like button. Got a bunch of people in the room already, so please like it. And somehow my wife is in the room. I don't know what's going on right now, but that's my wife. So
wow, look at her. She married down.
I don't know
Joe,
what I don't know what I did, but I did something right.
Joe, can I tell you about our sponsor?
Yes, you can tell us about Q42.
Q42 barbecue sauce. What makes it different than the rest? I'm reading this. I didn't memorize it. I swear to God, I can't memorize anything anymore. What makes it different than the rest? It's made in Western New York, where you all live or want to live, because that's where the Buffalo Bills are, not stuck in Arizona with me. It's made in Western New York with real Western New York honey, real ingredients. Even the ketchup and the mustard is made from scratch. Holy smokes. Where the other guys had fillers like high fructose corn syrup, which we all know is poison, Q42 puts in the time and effort to cook up its sauce worthy of the most serious tailgaters, of which you are. The KC sauce is a crowd pleaser, verified by John Fina on Twitter just a few days ago. The KC sauce, yes. The Carolina sauce is a mustard lover's match. I mean, I went on Match.com just looking for another mustard lover, and I hit on Q42. It was so awesome. So in all seriousness, I like to play around with it because Iman's a great guy, and the barbecue sauce is awesome. So please go to Q42bbq.com. Get yours today. Ready for the holiday season. Put in the code FINA SHOW, all capitals, to save 15%. Oh, and by the way, the dry rubs are really nice too. So I treated my chicken with a little dry rub first. I do a little pre-cook on my chicken, and then I put it on the coals, give it a little sear, and then move it off the coals, close the lid, get that mesquite smoke going. Fantastico, man.
Fantastico. I tell you what, dude, we were, so I was in Mexico, as everybody knows. I was not here last week. And across the street from the resort was this thing called the food park, and I don't want to get into it. It's there's a lot to talk about the food park, but at the food park where we got authentic Mexican cuisine, all the locals were hanging out there, so I knew I was in the right place. We got 16-ounce bottles of Coke, Mexican Coke with real sugar. And you said a second ago that corn syrup, right, is like the high fructose corn syrup is poison. Dude, real Coke in a glass bottle with sugar, like sugar cane sugar is what I'm talking about. Like,
yeah, we can get it all. We can get it in nearly every supermarket in Arizona.
Really?
Yes.
I might be moving.
It's contraband, though. Look out. It's coming across the border like crazy. You think it's just fentanyl, man? They're bringing that original Coke over, too.
So good. So absolutely good. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
Too soon?
Maybe just a little bit.
But
it's good to be with everybody. John is in, I would not say rare form. John's in normal form right about now. So definitely making jokes, which is good. But we're here to talk about this Buffalo Bills and Jets game. We are going to Jedi mind trick right over the Jacksonville Jaguars game like it didn't even happen. So we're just going to pass right by it, and we're going to go right to this.
Surf Pro, like it didn't even happen.
That's right.
Surf Pro looking for a sponsor for the Untitled.
So we're gonna pass on the Jaguars game, move right to the Jets game. So let's start right there. So give me just high level thoughts, expectations going into this game, and then I'll give you mine versus maybe what we got.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that my expectations were any different from going down to Jacksonville, where I knew that it would be a fight because they're all fights, right?
Mm-hmm.
I expected to beat Jacksonville. We did not. I expected to beat the Jets, and we did. I thought that Jacksonville would be a challenge for us. Their defense is pretty good, as we came to experience, unfortunately. But I didn't have that expectation from the Jets offense or defense. You never know because it's a division game. I didn't give them props because of the way they play football or who plays football for them, but the fact that it's a division game. Mm-hmm. So I expected a little bit, I guess, more of the Jets, and I think we got it, a little bit of it in the first half. They just ran out of gas. I was not too concerned about that quarterback, and I think that our defensive plan, which we'll dig into, kind of reflects what they felt the weaknesses were for that quarterback and that team in particular. I was a little surprised that their offensive line actually played pretty well when things were undecided, but by and large, expected to win, got to win. What about you there, Broseph?
I'm at the point. I was just on a show. Believe it or not, I was invited to be a guest on a show with it was the Herd and 10 podcast with Jake Fortinsky, and I didn't realize that Corbin Bryant is actually his podcast co-host. You remember Corbin Bryant, defensive tackle for the Buffalo Bills, when they were running the wide nine? Yeah, he said he remembered you too, which is cool. That I was like, I don't know if you're familiar with John Fina, but all that to say this, I literally I'm at the point of I do a prediction show for Rumblings, and I'm at the point of like I don't know what to expect anymore. I don't know what I'm going to get on a weekend. Like our predictions every single weekend we're like Bills 42, right? Opponent 17, and the Bills don't score 40 something points. So I don't know what. I just hoped they played well. I hope that they didn't play down to their opponent. I hope that the offense was going to get on track, and I think we saw that. We saw a lot of great things, in my opinion. We saw obviously the ground game, the running was great. I do have questions for you in that respect that I talked about last night on the Overreaction podcast. As far as like, are we like going to walk away from this going, this is who we are? Or is it more like, well, maybe it's because we played the Jets and they're one of the worst defenses in the league. And we can get into that in a little bit. Josh Allen at times looked like the Josh Allen of 2020. He was throwing 30-yard lasers all over the football field. The misdirection was back, which was great. He was doing play action all over the place. John, when was the last time you ever saw a football game where all 5 of the starting defensive backs had a turnover? 4 of them was with interceptions. So 4 interceptions, right cornerback, left cornerback, nickel cornerback, safety, and then the last one had a forced fumble and a fumble recovery. Have you ever seen that before?
No, that was insane. It was due in part a little bit to quarterbacking. I mean, some of those throws, crikey. Yeah. Did he actually say, I feel like I should have been a first-round pick or first
overall? In
numero 18,
he was drafted in 18. He felt like he should have been the first overall draft pick.
Where did he play football in college?
I knew it until you asked me that question because they said it yesterday in the show. They said it yesterday in the show. I'll look it up. But
even if you think that kind of thing, I mean, it's just a little over the top to say something like that. Or maybe that's just the way I was raised. I don't know. I don't talk like that. Like, oh, I should have been this. Who cares what you should have been? You weren't. So go out there and be that guy. And he didn't be that guy.
Western Kentucky. He was a hilltopper.
I love that mascot. I always wonder, like, I topped the hill. Now what do we do? Like roll down, Jack and Jill. Hilltoppers, famous
Right.
for God knows what.
The top of the hill. So
I don't know. I don't see. I mean, we picked a guy out of Wyoming. He wasn't the number one overall, but I sometimes wonder if Western Kentucky isn't sitting there in the AD's office going, maybe we should cancel our football program.
Right. I just want to know if you feel that I'm off base with what I was saying as far as like not only my expectation that I'm just not really sure what to expect anymore from this football team. And it's not. I expect great football from the defense. Like, let's just say that this defense.
It's weird because we weren't saying that last year. It was the upside down, backwards, and sideways.
Exactly. It's the offense that I'm just not sure what to expect outside of Zach Moss running into the back of the offensive lineman. That I'm expecting that. And we got a little bit of that in the Jets game as well. So outside of that, it's just, there's a great deal of like, I'm not really sure. I wasn't sure. So I was excited. I was elated to see, them basically, you saw halftime adjustments again, which I thought was great. We saw halftime adjustments against the Dolphins 2 weeks before, halftime adjustments. And when they made those adjustments, they shot themselves largely in the foot in the second quarter with a lot of penalties, some dumb plays. And then by the third quarter, I mean, they put 21 on them. 21. It was actually 28-0. They won by a 4-touchdown margin, which was all pretty much gotten between the last 2 minutes, the 2-minute drive through the third quarter. And at that point in time, that game it wasn't even as close as the score. Like they beat him into the turf. It was
pretty rough. And going to your question, I think that there's a risk here. Like you said, we talked about like this trap game. You don't want the Jets to be the trap game. Like beating the Jets is your trap. You come off a loss to a team that you feel like you should have beat, the Jaguars, and you didn't, right? So now we're kind of elated, and maybe they are too, for beating a team that sort of fell into last week's category, like should have beat.
Right.
So, what does that put them in a state mentality for, hosting the Colts? So that's kind of curious, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure we will get to the Colts game as well, because that's worth talking about when you're talking about Jonathan Taylor, Naheem Hines. Obviously, I think that football team is better with Carson Wentz than they were with Phillip Rivers. I was obviously at the Colts playoff game here in Buffalo last year, and the Bills had a hard day, primarily because every drive start was like in their own, like inside their own 20, inside their own 15-yard line, which never makes for an easy day on offense. But we can get to that in a little bit when we get to kind of what's next, or, where do we go from here type of a thing. But I was glad. Do you buy into, everybody says, oh, it's a divisional opponent, they all know each other. Well, do you know them when they've got a brand new coaching staff? Aren't they a different team?
Yeah, they're a different team. I mean, some of the players remain the same, but schematically, and this, I was kind of mulling this over in my head a little bit when you were talking about adjustments. Do we do too many adjustments per the team we're going to face, right? Are we game planning too hard, not in the spirit of being too cute, but trying to focus too much on their weaknesses rather than just running something over and over that we have strength with? So I know athletes are different now and defenses are better and they're faster than they used to be, but when I played a zillion years ago, we didn't have a lot of variety. We pretty much ran the same thing. We made changes in third and long. We made changes in the red zone to attack certain weaknesses. But we do change our offensive scheme quite a bit based on what we believe the strengths and or weaknesses are of the defenses we play. And I guess I just kind of wonder every now and again, is that a wise thing to do? Because then you're master of none and jack of many. I said,
right.
I said that backwards, but I think everybody gets the reference.
Yeah, we totally get the reference. I don't think I know what the answer is. I guess for me, it's the Patriots, right? So the Patriots with Tom Brady for 20 years, they were going to throw that seam pass to Rob Gronkowski 15 yards down the field, because guess what? You can't stop it. And we're going to do it for 15 years straight. You know what I mean? Like, maybe not 15. I mean, Gronk hasn't been in the league 15 years, but you know what I'm saying?
It only feels like 15 years.
Yeah, it does. It just doesn't seem like the Patriots did much changing on offense. Like Tom was Tom, and I mean, they would change depending on the personnel. So if the personnel changed, then they would change the scheme. But if they had the same personnel, Edelman was going to get his catches. He was going to be a nightmare all game long because they were going to force feed him the ball, right? It's just weird.
So I guess we look, we're week 9, right? So we're halfway through the season.
Yep.
We're week 10 with 7 to play.
Can we just pause and have a moment of silence about the fact that the season's half over already? It's gone fast.
I feel really bad for your wife. She'll be the real victim in all this.
Every year.
I slay me.
Yep. There is a question that I'm going to ask you from Richard Rush, who's a big fan of the show and a friend of mine. I wanted to ask John if the up and down on the O-line or on the offensive line is scheme, players, or Bobby Johnson, whom he respects.
What up and down? I'm not sure what you mean, like rotationally or
they had a good game this past week. They've had windows at times where they've played okay, but like by and large, the scheme just. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to say the scheme. I don't want to lead you, but there's by and large, it seems like there's just times when the run just isn't working. It's like,
well, look,
stop that.
The run doesn't always work. I'll always say that first, but I would venture to say that the Jets defensive front four was not the Jacksonville front four, nor was it the Pittsburgh front four.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they posed the same challenges. We had holding penalty on Deion Dawkins and a holding call on Mitch Morse. Aside from that, I mean, a few blocks were lost late, but that happens.
Yeah.
The gaps were made, runs were made, passes were completed. I don't know. I mean, when I look at coaching, it's not so much schematically. I look a lot at technique, and I think there are technique issues that I would like to see kind of addressed if they're being noticed. Things that I noticed because of the way I was coached. So, I came from a really strong base in college. So when you're trying to teach a pro, this is why the coaching in the pros can be such a kind of a double-edged sword, right? You've got grown men who've arrived at the highest level of their profession, and then you're trying to tell them their baby is ugly a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't always have the time to do the technique coaching. And sometimes you don't get the belief, so by the time they reach the NFL, a lot of people are really ingrained and trying to work that backwards out can be challenging. But I always, a couple of things that I always lived by was plan your first step, right? So the huddle breaks, I know the play. My assumption is based on defensive front. I get into my stance and I plan my first step because my first step is going to make it or break it. So if there's a change in the defensive front, I adjust accordingly. But, the first thing starts with the first step. And I see some kind of peculiarities that, if I were coaching, and I coach down to, the gnat's ass with that kind of stuff, 6-inch step rather than bucket step and things of that nature. I'm sorry, is this a PG show?
What is a 6-inch step and what is a bucket step?
Yeah, so if I'm, let's say Spencer Brown.
Yeah.
I'm in a right-handed stance, and I've got to go combination block to the inside with Darrell Williams, and I need to gain ground with my left foot. My right foot's back, my left foot's forward, or to you guys, it's like this, I think.
Yep.
Right? So I need to really focus, have enough weight on my outside foot so I can step and gain ground, meaning move toward the direction I want to go, whether that's truly laterally or a 45-degree angle, or I can still gain ground. It'll listen to your brain, even if my step is backwards, as long as I'm making a lateral gain. But bucket step is when I want to go that way and I step here first or step here first. So you step underneath yourself. I don't know why you got the name bucket step. It doesn't make sense.
So it's an inside step.
No, it's stepping underneath yourself.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Correct.
Interesting. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That was important because I'd never heard of that before. So
you didn't. You got perfect timing. Oh, sorry, that was my coaster. I got to protect Shannon's table. Shannon, there's no beer on the table. I swear, oh God.
You're so fancy with your coasters.
It's just like a piece of wood. It's very nice though. Absorbent.
So let's move to the good in this football game because there was a lot of good in this football game, and for me, a big part of that good was AJ Klein. I was really super duper impressed. And I don't want to take a single thing away from a guy that I wholeheartedly bashed the first 6 games of the NFL season last year, the Bills season last year, because he was not playing well. And then the Bills magically suddenly figured out how to scheme him. And ever since then, he's been a quality linebacker. And in this football game, he played very, very well. He was moving guys around. He was the captain of the defense. He was the angles he was taking to obviously the football and the runner. He didn't always get there necessarily, but the angles were great. He was running downhill. Like for me, he just played incredibly well.
Well, I mean, perfect game for him to step into, right? Against, I guess, a mediocre at best offense with a quarterback who thinks he's better than he is. And I don't want to take anything away from AJ Klein. I have a short-term memory. So what you just said about the first 6 games last year, I'd forgotten like by the 7th game of last year. So, his opportunity on the field, he just took advantage of it. And what a great place to be as a defender, walking in to play with this defense. So I think he felt a certain amount of freedom to just have fun and really go downhill and fly around. He was impressive. It was very much a bright spot. But to me, the overarching point of that is, we're finally in a game where it's a little bit tough. They had one good drive in the first half, but it's a battle, right? It's only 17-3 at the half, but it was 10-3 up until 50 seconds left in the half. So you expose a guy who spent so much time on the bench to real defensive play, and that matters. I mean, there's only 2 linebackers on the field in the NFL most of the time, right? It's all 4-2-5. I can't do that. 4-2-5. So I think the value in that is extraordinary because we'll need him again.
Yeah.
I mean, we will. Tremaine Edmonds had issues last year. Milano had an issue this year already. And, you just never know who's going to have to fit in. And for him to get into a game like this and have that freedom, step in with a confident group, an attacking group that's riding high right now, you can't ask for a better situation. And he really took advantage of it. I mean, you could go in there and disappear and not do anything and still win the game. But like it or not, you hear and you see, and I'm sure he probably has social media on his phone, and it probably feels pretty good and well-deserved.
Question, and I don't know if you can answer this question because in the NFL, by and large, you were drafted in the first round by the Buffalo Bills. Your first year, you didn't really play, and then since your second year, you were a starter all the way through. Is there something to be said for, because like what you said was interesting to me, and I'd love to know the answer, going into a game and just not hurting the team versus going into the game and attacking? Do guys feel that pressure? Like, I want to go in, I want to do my job, but I don't want to hurt the team, versus I'm going to go in and I'm going to be the freaking man and I'm going to strut my stuff and do what I got to do.
No, I think it probably came across. I think the situations that were available to him made him very apparent, right?
Gotcha.
And he looked good doing it.
Yeah.
There's a possibility that those plays never come to him and he doesn't really appear, but he still plays a solid game. We're just not on Monday talking about how we should release Tremaine Edmonds because, he had one game.
Some people are.
So, and the reason behind that, right? You have to have an industrial strength and Mars-sized ego to play football.
Oh, yeah.
You're never walking onto the field of play thinking, I just don't want to hurt the team. I mean, you're out there with the attitude that, hey, there's Joe Miller. Let me see how many times I can kill him to death. And everybody's got that attitude. That's why, like the week after Thanksgiving, you've seen so many of your teammates, you're just like, I just don't talk. I can't take it anymore. I'm oversaturated.
The egos in the room.
You're just like, God, I've heard the same conversation like 65 times.
That's funny. The other good for me, there was just a lot of good in this football game. Obviously, the running backs had a fantastic football game. I'm still, even with this game, a believer that, we are not a ground and pound team. We are not a run first team, and I don't think we should be. I think we should be a pass first team, 60-40, 70-30. Who knows, maybe even 80-20 if the game dictates it. But I was very pleased with what something. It's hard for me to believe because when they made the move to Spencer Brown, moved Darrell Williams in, there was an impact, but it wasn't like, whoa, like that line is so much better. And then Spencer Brown hurts his back. He goes out. Williams goes back to right tackle.
Cody, right?
Cody comes in, right? And it's like, oh, this offensive line is bad. And then Spencer Brown comes back, and it's like, wow. And again, it's hard because you say it's the Jets, but Shaq Lawson is not a bum. Quinnen Williams is not a bum. They've got good players on that defense.
But Shaq Lawson never really wanted to play the run, to be fair.
True, but true, but he was the best run defender we had on that team the year that he played.
Yeah, the interesting thing is they were 2-6 coming against us, right?
Yes.
But they played like 2-6.
Yes.
And the team the week before had one win, but they didn't play like they had one win. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, it's a toss-up. We talked about it. I'm sure Cody Ford is a great guy, but, he played himself out of this lineup. I went back, and in the first half, everybody's trashing. I know we said we'd, use the time lapse indicator to jump over last week, but in the first half, there really was only, one guy who played definitively poorly up front, and it was Cody Ford.
Right.
So, and we, I hate saying that. I never like to criticize, especially offensive linemen, but it remains a fact.
Well, the hard part about this game in general is the fact that guys are going to get moved off the roster who aren't as good, and other guys are going to move out of the roster who are, you hope, better. But it was just striking to me how much better the offensive line was, regardless of who the opponent was. They seemed to have, there was a couple mistakes here and there, and we'll get into some of that. But what were your goods? Obviously, the cornerbacks the whole defense was great. All of it was there wasn't much bad, and I'll get to the couple nitpicky things that I have when we get to the bad section. It was all good. What did you have anything that stuck out to you good wise?
Yeah, all the defense was great. You could pick out one player. I think Ed Oliver continues to impress. We talked about the challenges he had without having Star last year, and he didn't have Star yesterday. So arguably, he continues to develop, and 50% of that could just be confidence.
Not at the point of trying to call you out. I'm not trying to call you out, but at the beginning of the season, you texted me. We were in a text conversation, and you said that Ed Oliver might find himself not in this team next year.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You're not calling me out.
What have you seen from him? Like, what is the difference between what he did last year, early in the season, to now?
Well, I think he was put in a position last year where he had to be the big guy more than he wanted to be, right? Mm-hmm. So he needed somebody to eat up too, where he could work one-on-one, and we struggled. And it wasn't so much that I thought his play wasn't very good, but where does he fit? And now, so you bring Star back in. Now he gets to star in his own movie, which is the movie that he actually wrote, and he does really well at that. And then I think the younger defensive tackles are fitting into that Star mode and providing a similar sort of representation of what Star could do.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, he's more active and he's more productive this year in his one-on-one engagements than he was last year.
Right.
Look, yeah, I'm never rooting for a guy. I loved the pick. I think I'm just was waiting, and you got to look and see what's the timeline. How's the guy going to do? We're going to have to re-sign him, or we're going to have to let him go, and those decisions have to be made.
Yep.
I wouldn't. I'll stand by what I said before, meaning that he had to play well, and he's delivered.
Yeah. What else for you, Ed Oliver? Anything else good? The defense, Ed Oliver.
Yeah, I thought Josh was good. His interception was a poor throw. There's no two ways about it.
It was still a lucky interception, tip ball, and McKenna.
Yeah, but the placement of the ball was bad.
The placement of the ball was bad, and McKenna picked out that the defender, the ball actually hit the ground. It just wasn't a great view of it hitting the ground. Like, he may have dropped it, but
right. So the incompletion was bad.
It is what it is. But yeah, but it's quarterbacks, as you know, are going to throw interceptions.
Well, and I think the offense in general, there was a distinct variety in some of the protections that they used. They used some different play action passes based on like power schemes and sort of a mini rollout with a personal protector that were effective. Again, so these were kind of recent installations, and there were two instances where I thought to myself, yeah, that the problem with the two mistakes that were made were just because they haven't been running it for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? We haven't seen a lot of this protection. So there's a certain feel and a comfort level of how far to go, how aggressive to be, when to sit, when to strike. And some of that was missing on a couple of plays in particular. But I do like the variety. I think, kind of rolling around in my head and trying to be optimistic as I always am. Right, Bertie? Yeah. So I think, all right, I said earlier, we've played 9 games now, right, with 8 to play.
Yep. I
sort of kind of want to say, and I wanted to say it about, 3 games ago, decide who you are. Pick a couple of packages and stay with them. let's see who else. I thought the receiving corps did a very nice job. I thought the running backs ran hard. We had a couple of unsuccessful runs, and I thought that the offensive line played pretty well.
Yeah, the offensive line, as far as just it's just hard to describe when you've got, you know, 3 running backs with touchdowns on the ground, which that's the first time in Bills history that's happened, that they've had 3 different running backs score a touchdown in the game. The pass protection was great outside of 2 plays, which we'll get into here in a second. Yeah, like I said, when I started that comment about the offensive line, it's just hard to believe that, like, how different they were with Spencer Brown back in the game, Darrell Williams at right tackle, and then Ike at left guard. And it'll be interesting to see when Feliciano comes off of IR, if he gets his job back, right? I think there's no way that if we're going to talk draft right now, the Bills are drafting a guard high, are they not? Like, they're drafting a guard somewhere in the first, second round next year.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair assessment. I have no issues with that.
They need a left. They need a left guard so bad. They need a left guard really, really bad.
No, you need a left guard who can also play right guard. You need the Swiss Army knife, and most guys that can play both sides. I'm
gonna get there early. I wanted to talk about it on one of the bad plays, but what is with Ryan Bates? Talk to me about Ryan Bates, because we've got you said Swiss Army knife. We've got a Swiss Army knife on the offensive line. We've got a guy that can play
What's
center.
wrong with him? Meaning, why is he not in there?
Why is he the guy that can play center, guard, and tackle? Deion Dawkins goes out for 1 play. He's not the first guy off the bench. What is going on? Why is this guy on the football team? How is he not the first guy off the bench?
Well, he played tight end in the game. Did you see?
He did. He played the Lee Smith role. He absolutely played the Lee Smith role.
He got in on a heavy package. I wrote that down. It's right here.
I wrote that down. Why did the voice change?
That's what I always do when I do my radio voice.
I just don't understand. What is going on there? I mean, I don't know. Can you lend some sort of insight to that?
I can't. I mean,
Tommy Doyle comes in, the game is too big for him still. I mean, a guy's 6'9" or whatever he is, and clearly the game's still a little bit too big for him.
Please. I mean, can you get put in the worst situation possible?
No, you can't.
And then your quarterback drops too deep.
Yeah, we'll get there. Let's talk about the good things. So we're going to do this a little different in this show. We're going to break down some plays for you guys like we have been, but we're going to break down a couple good plays, couple bad, and then a couple bad plays, things that need work.
Okay, you got to remind me what they are as they come up, because I have no memory.
Well, the first one that you wanted to talk about was the defensive play, which is where Jerry Hughes tracks with. It was just, in your opinion, something that you saw that you don't see very often from defenses, and it was a look that you felt.
Dude, I'm on the podcast.
Oh, he's on the phone. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, so this was a game planning idea, right? So look at, they got trips over at the top of the screen, right, to the defensive left.
Yeah.
Right? So how nice is it to be able to overload? You got Groot standing up, and you got 3 behind. All right, that's still there. You got what they call that now, the teacup formation, which I don't know, Alice in Wonderland me to death here, right? So what do you do on the bottom half of the screen? There's AJ Klein in the middle, and it looks like it's a little unbalanced. So this is I think a specific defense that they put in for this play. And what you see is we'll give up a rusher, all right, an edge rusher, and pick up the back out of the backfield with Hughes and drop Groot into the flat, knowing full well that this quarterback doesn't really throw the ball downfield that well, right? He's a little bit of a dump guy from what I understand, the way what I'd read.
Yes.
So this is a beautiful play. You put Jerry Hughes, incredible athlete, on the running back on the wheel route. You've taken away the bottom of the screen. You got press coverage, Levi Wallace. And now the real risk is this, I don't even like saying it, the teacup formation, because you can run so many rub routes, so many combination routes off of that to confuse the defenders behind them.
Which they've got trips right. So you think that that's what they would do, right?
That's right. So it's a cool little wrinkle. I mean, if this is a Leslie Frazier one, I saw that and I was like, okay, how cool is that? So when you run the play, Jerry Hughes sees the running back release, chases him on the wheel route. He's got him in his pocket. It's gorgeous. Groot at the top of the screen in the flat. And then this whole mess with those 3 receivers, if you can run it back about 3 clicks, what you'll see, there's a ton of our guys in the middle of the field taking care of that.
You want that? You want that shot right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool. So you've got really tough passing windows. It was a really neat little wrinkle. I caught it, and then I'm not smart enough to say I'm going to go back and find that formation again to see if they do it again. But with their solution, even the two linebackers that come, they bump and drop too. So you're covering the flat all the way across with 4 guys, and you've got your super skilled guys chasing down the guys in that trips formation. That was a really cool.
And I'll be honest, as much as Mike White had a lot of errant throws in this football game, I think he's throwing that football away. He sees that the running back is covered and pitches it over his head to the point where, like, there's no way going to get this football.
Which is sheer silliness, because we're only rushing 2 guys in the end. When the linebackers drop out of there, he could have probably walked to the 20-yard line and got a first down.
Especially when the praise that he was given by the announcers was how great he is at going through his reads. Watch him go through his reads. And then he dumps it down.
Anyway, this wasn't a chance to blow up Mike White more than an opportunity to say what a neat little wrinklet.
Yeah, for sure. We got our first super chat. So this one comes from Eric Farrell. Thank you for the super chat. Thanks for being a part of the show. Hey guys, missed you last week. Was that a hold by Dion, which negated a great bootleg game by Josh, or was it a great block? I thought it was good. He tackled the player, so he spun him and tackled him. But it was away from the play.
It's neither.
It was away from the play.
Okay, you can give your opinion first. Look, technically it's a hold, but when you look at that as an offensive player and you're moving in one direction and the other guy is moving in the other direction, he didn't really take the guy, physically move and tackle him. It was almost like one of those martial arts moves that I don't have, where you use somebody else's leverage and body momentum. But the problem is officials, A, don't understand that, and B, don't see the whole play. So all they see is the end result. Anytime a guard is laying on a tackle or on a defensive tackle, they just throw a holding call.
Gotcha.
So look, you can't have 30 officials on the field because we'd all throw up. I mean, the game would last 6 hours, right?
That's funny. The next good play. So the next good play is what is this one? I don't even remember now.
Okay, Josh Allen roll. So everybody get him out of the pocket. Our offensive line is terrible. This is my terrified offensive line voice. Yes. So this is like a half roll. So stop it right there. So before you got to that point, this looks exactly like Indianapolis, right? This is Peyton Manning. You're running to do a wide handoff, and then you stop. So we answered the call of the Twitter mafia. We moved him out of the pocket. But the really cool wrinkle here is they take the first uncovered lineman. In this case, it's Morse, and he kind of pirouettes out and he becomes a personal protector for him. So it's a really nice play. You got hard action right, and then he sets up. By the time he sets up, he's actually behind where Spencer Brown lines up.
Yep.
So we've moved the pocket, and then we escape with an offensive lineman. And I just think it's an interesting play for the people that say we need to get him out of the pocket. I want them to understand this is that.
Yeah, and you can see, to your point, like Mitch Morse is standing there as his personal protector. You see Dawson Knox leaking free, which is cool. This is the moment where they've got 3 linebackers, and you can see them. And C.J. Mosley is recognizing what's about to happen before the other 2 linebackers know what's going on. C.J. Mosley has already sniffed it out. He's like, "Uh-oh, this is about to be a problem."
Right, and everybody loves Spencer Brown's block on the touchdown when he pulls and buries the tiny guy.
Yeah.
I guess we're all tiny next to Spencer.
We are.
But the best block, the block in addition to that, if that block doesn't happen, is Darrell Williams on C.J. Mosley. Oh, spoiler alert! Dang, I gave it away.
Yeah, you're getting ahead of yourself, which I think is the next play. So
I can't help it, Joe.
He's so excited. We have another super chat from Sharon Briandi, who just basically says, "Thanks, guys. Just thanks."
Yeah. I think that was "Let's party like it's 1999." Sharon, you're great. Thank you for all the love on Twitter. True Bills Mafia. Thank you so much.
She's awesome. She's awesome. So, and this one is a two-play sequence. It's the end around to Sanders, and then right behind it, the jet sweep, the return of the jet sweep by Isaiah McKenzie. And I just love this play. This is the first, I think this is the most successful end around we've run in a very, very long time. And I just love seeing, and I pointed this out to you, all the guys. So you got Ike Bucker, like our left guard, who's already out beyond the numbers on the right side of the field. Spencer Brown's out there, like everybody's out there.
And the reason it's the blocking scheme. So we're pause it right there. So we're actually running power to the left. That's why, when you move everybody this way, you hope to suck the defense with you, which is what you just need those edge guys to move a little bit so your receivers can get locked into them. And then, your fast guy, Sanders, can get around the edge, right? So now, bear with me. We are seeing play action or action going opposite the jet sweep. So this play looks like it's going left, but it actually goes right, and it'll be important in a minute. But yeah, so what happens is on this scheme, the guys end up being free because they're faking a combination block that isn't necessary at the point of attack. So all Dawkins has to do is get in front of the 3 technique, and then that double team action Boker uses, and it just releases at a 45-degree angle, and it's not dissimilar to the same thing that Spencer Brown does. He steps down, checks that gap, nobody comes, he looks out, Sanders makes the corner, and he runs upfield. Let's see if I'm right.
I think what's amazing about this play too is that Darrell Williams is the only offensive lineman that goes in the opposite direction.
Well, that's because he's pulling. We're faking power to the left.
Right. And you can't say enough about the fakes on Allen.
Okay, stop.
Oops, sorry. I was
run it again, and instead of watching our offensive line, watch the 3 linebackers. Oh,
they all go right. They all follow Singletary.
They're all following the action of the pulling guard.
How much? The only guard they key on is Darrell Williams. The only one they key on is Darrell Williams.
You're right. I just, you always want to break it down to the skill positions. And
No. I think, speaking of skill position, I think that Josh Allen has become masterful in his ball work. And you saw it in this football game several times. Like, he was a magician on this play. Like, right here, whoop, I got the ball still. And then he tosses it to Sanders.
Yep. But that movement, just getting those linebackers to move 2 steps matters.
Yep.
And look, there's Mosley again. You're not going to stop that guy. His hair is amazing.
And then the one that you wanted, which was the jet sweep, which this mesh point handoff was incredible.
So here's what's cool about this, right? We just watched action away, jet sweep to the right. Now we're going to see, and you just don't see this. To me, it was like, I was like, wait a minute. Did they make a mistake? Did the offensive line run the wrong play? And they didn't, because Josh and the running back also ran the wrong play. So you don't see a jet sweep to the side of the action. This is crazy, right? Because you think what you're going to be doing is bringing everybody to the play. But we're just looking at him saying, we're going to fake it to the way that we're running it. That makes no sense. Now, he could have handed the ball off and it would have been a touchdown, but it's not a read, obviously, because he handed it off. But so check out Darrell Williams' block on that play. That's great from the end zone.
Well, yeah, let me get to that. So this would have been Zach Moss's longest run of the year, probably. Like, he literally makes it to the end zone on his own. And McKenzie's the one with the football. My eyes got tricked during the game, so we'll get to the end zone. It's actually a corner shot, but this one right here. So what do you wanting us to look at in this play? Darrell Williams, right?
Darrell Williams.
Yeah, it's going. So they all jet inside. So all the so what were you saying? All the motion, all the action is to the side that he's going to, right?
Yeah. So you don't typically run a jet sweep to the same side that you're faking the ball.
Right. It's hard to believe that the funny, and Mosley didn't get tricked. So Mosley was all over it. He was the only one. The Bills have tried to do this jet sweep a couple times this season, and it's gotten snuffed out, and it started not working at the end of the season last year.
Yeah, so we downloaded the wrong play. The one that I wanted to send you, we didn't look at, but that's okay. Earlier on, everybody go back. No. So, but I just thought that was a cool wrinkle. So you got back-to-back plays where you're running jet sweep, except your action one way, sweep the other, and then your action the same way you're sweeping. It's just kind of wild.
Yeah, a little crazy. So awesome stuff. So the work. There wasn't much in this football game.
You were going to show the 2 bad plays. Is that later?
We're going to do that here with the work. We're going to do it with the work.
Okay.
The big thing with the work for me, and of all the people watching the show, maybe because we know Jerry Ostrowski watches once in a while, and we don't know necessarily who's out there lurking or paying attention, but you have been in an offensive huddle, right? So you've been in an offensive huddle. I am so confused this season why or how so many of our offensive players have gotten jumped on Josh Allen hard counts. 2 in this football game. Singletary, who's standing next to Josh Allen, who has his eyes on the football, right? He can see the ball getting snapped, jumps on a Josh Allen hard count, and so does Cole Beasley. They've got to be calling this in the huddle, right? It's on 2 or it's on whatever. Like what is that hard count call? What's said in the huddle?
I don't know, man. Look, all I know is I went to a charity event after a Sunday night game and gave a big speech in front of like 1,600 people. And then I asked for questions, and like a 8-year-old boy, the only question he wanted to know is how it felt to jump off sides on national television. And I immediately told him, I'm like, I felt like a dumbass. What do you think, you little rat bastard?
Look what you did, you little jerk.
Look, sometimes the count doesn't happen as quickly as you want, or there's an adjustment and you forget the count. Like you do that. You're driving home. Your wife's like, "Did you pick up the pickles?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, honey." And meanwhile, you're making a U-turn in Pennsylvania. You're heading back to the market. They come in fits and starts. I don't think it has anything to do with Josh. You're just focused on your job sometimes, and the cadence you forget.
Gotcha. Anything for you that needs work that's outside of the videos that we have? Or were you going to say something else?
Oh my God, our tight ends need work. Our tight ends blocking.
Well, one of them has a broken hand.
I don't care. I mean, put a club on it. We played a guy with a club not too long ago. A thing, club. It's a visual gag. My visual gags don't work for the pod.
No, they definitely don't. For people listening, yeah.
Well, look, they need to block better. They're not blocking gooder enough. You know what I mean? They got to get more gooder.
You're talking about both tight ends, correct? That's got to be. I feel like they rushed Dawson Knox back. Do you think that's part of the reason?
Well, they might have had to do it out of necessity, but I think they need to get better at blocking.
For a team for an organization, a franchise, a coaching staff, personnel guys that have over the last 2-3 years gone out of their way to give guys extra time. When we think about Mitch Morse last year, didn't play in the Cardinals game coming off that concussion because they just gave him an extra game. Like they last year, they sat Edmonds out and Milano out. They sit guys when they can to just give them extra rest. It just seems like they maybe rushed. Dawson Knox was supposed to be a 3 to 4 week injury. He came in 3, and there was a picture of them getting to the plane on Saturday for this flight, and his hand was exposed, and the outside of his hand was super swollen. So I can't imagine that was comfortable.
No, maybe not, but you still got to block.
Right.
I mean, or don't call plays where Dawson Knox has to block, but Sweeney he needs to get better too. That's the first thing that popped out to me.
Yeah.
And I'd like the offensive line needs to continue to get better, and we need to play good football against a good front four.
Right.
So I haven't studied Indianapolis. I'm sure the PFF people and everybody have already broken down that game a million times. I like to kind of watch the game and assess the players as they play in that game, because sometimes you have a guy who you didn't expect him to be a great player and he plays out of his head, and then great guys will have a poor game. So that's just my excuse for saying I'm not going to prepare.
So Mark Johnson asks first and foremost, excuse me, welcome back, boys. Is John wearing pants, a kilt, or a skort?
You'll never know. My brother and I were just shopping for kilts online at a really cool place. It's called Utilikilt.
You're Italian. Why are you looking for kilts? That's so weird. That's
Arizona.
So
you want to be able to create a little air movement.
Right. So Matthew Montgomery, can a team get better at blocking this late in the season?
Yes. Of course. Everybody can get better. Everybody should be aspiring to be better at everything every day, right? So, I mean, they go out there and they run routes every day because receivers, work on how they come out of breaks, the footwork into a break. Defensive backs can improve, their footwork, which is huge. You get better at your reads, and defensive line, you get better at your leverage points, right? Yes, and it's sometimes you got to find you got to find what each guy needs to hear, right? So when I coached, the biggest thing I tried to do is just talk about how, and I steal everything from the guy who coached me, so this is not mine, but words trigger pictures. So when I coach offensive line, I try to boil it down to the fewest words I can. Not like this show where I can't stop talking. I'm sorry. Not sorry. Not sorry at all. So the short answer is, the thoughtful player can get better. And, it could be a little bit of it is confidence too. Like sometimes when your confidence is down, you're not striking when the exact a potion, right, to fix it. The cure is actually to strike more, strike harder, strike faster.
Gotcha.
But the doubt creeps in. So eliminating the doubt and throwing it out there will make you a better player.
Right. Now, as far as going,
I love these super chats, by the way.
Yeah,
they're really good.
They're really freaking awesome. So getting into just what we're going to look at as far as plays go. This is the one that you wanted, there was a combination block here that, why don't you just kind of break it down?
All right, this is just lead, right? So it's fullback lead. Deion Dawkins on the end, combination block, center left guard to the middle linebacker on the hash. And then what you should see here is right guard, right tackle, 3 technique to CJ Mosley, right? And then what you have on the back from the tight end should be what we call a sift. So you step inside as a tight end. If threat is at the defensive lineman, you want to chunk him and then work your way up to that linebacker at the top hash. But what happens here is they misread it because they lined up in this 4-4, which is kind of cute, and they sneak the guy into the box a little bit. Now, if he's out in space and there's no reason for him to be out in space, then it's an 8-man box, right? Now, if I can do the math, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we've only got 7 guys, but you got to block the point of attack first. So the breakdown here is between Williams and Spencer. They have to be climbing CJ Mosley, and they don't. They climb what would amount to the Sam linebacker. So this would be Sam, Mike, Will, Stubb. And they climb to the Sam rather than to the Mike. So the Mike, who's CJ Mosley, ends up being free here. But if they go to Mosley and they let the tight end sift, this actually becomes a nice little play. So this is an error breakdown, and it amounts to, this is why when you get up to the line of scrimmage and you see the center do this and looking around, everybody else should know the play well enough to be looking around too. Now, I don't know if this is Morse's call, but if Morse is telling, please give me a break here. If Morse is telling Boker that they're going to the Will, which is the second guy from the bottom, then Williams and Spencer need to be going to the Mike. So if you run this, you'll see Spencer and Darryl on the Sam right there, and CJ Mosley just comes free.
The wrong guy to come free came free, right? The one guy you want to block.
we want 47, 43 free. Because, and it doesn't matter. Our tight end gets beat anyway. I mean, he doesn't take the right step.
Here's my question. When Josh Allen comes to the line and he sees this, I know that it's 1st and 10. I know that we want to be balanced. I know that we want to play complementary football. He's at 8 in the box. Why is he not checking to a pass?
Well, he should. I mean, I shouldn't say he should, but what I would like to see, because this isn't like a surprise alignment. Well, I don't know that it isn't. I mean, I don't think that either the Sam or the Stubb walked up at the end.
Right.
So if they didn't walk up at the end, then yeah, I mean, they might be in the quarterback room right now saying, dude, this is play action all the way. Imagine if he fakes this and rolls out on a bootleg, our tight end gets beat like a drum here, right?
Right. So
Josh is running. 43 is already running downhill. He's floating out into space. He can dump it.
For me, you've got single high safety, right? You've got Diggs at the top, in man. You've got Sanders at the bottom in man. If he comes out of that and pumps it to one of those guys, it's going to pull the safety, and the other guy is wide open by himself. Right?
Yeah, it's the exact same play, Joe. It just turn it into a pull and a play action. But or hold on, they may not have an audible out of this. Not every play has an audible. Not every alignment in a play has an audible.
You're just running it. Whatever it is, like we're calling this play, you're going to run it.
Yep.
That's wild.
But look, I mean, if they block it right, first of all, I don't, in my heart of hearts, I have no idea how our tight end gets beat inside here. That's just bad stepping.
So Dawson Knox at the top of the screen is what he's talking about. So
yeah, but he can pull with his left foot and gain ground rather than bucket step, and then just do a rip through, like an arm under, like a defensive lineman rushes the quarterback.
Right.
Pete Metzelaars did that a million times. You step inside, you rip, and you have that guy in your back hip, and you just climb to the linebacker.
So everybody watching, Dawson Knox is on the top hash in a 3-point stance, and you can watch when I roll this. The end gets right underneath them, right by him.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
Which it doesn't. Yeah, but CJ was already there. Mosley was there in a flash. Mosley just runs right to.
If you go back to the zone week where Bates was at tight end in the heavy package on the left side with a slot, we ran zone weak, and the running back bent it all the way to the backside.
Right. Next one for me is this one. And I just wanted to bring up the 2 sacks because this to me needs work. And this is the first one where Tommy Doyle comes in for the injured Deion Dawkins for one play.
3rd and 11.
3rd and 11, yep. Which is not an ideal situation. But Doyle and Spencer Brown both get hosed, as does Butker.
Spencer Brown does not.
Yes, he does.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
Where's the ball? 41-yard line.
And his guy goes right by him.
10 yards. What are you talking about? Spencer Brown's block is perfect.
Okay, then I'm wrong. It just seems like he leaked him too far back. So,
what are you talking about? Stop.
Hang on a second. Right. You've got another opinion on this, on where the fault is, which is what I'm trying to lead you to, but you're blaming me.
Of course I am. That's because we're fighting. No, I don't talk about fault, but Josh Allen can't drop to 10 yards and then step up to 9. It's just not how it's done. Now, we had a problem in the middle here. Tommy Doyle is just, you know what? I mean, he's going into the film room today and be like, thanks a lot for putting me in on 3rd and 11 after staying on the sideline. My back is as tight as a freaking, 2x4. But Josh drops too deep, and he does this a lot. And
he's a full 10 yards. He's a full 10 yards.
He's a full 10. So Spencer Brown's block is perfect. There's nothing wrong with Spencer's block, but Doyle's already turned. I mean, you can see he's facing the end zone. At least Spencer's still facing the sideline a little bit. The play really, Josh can't step up, so to speak, but bear with me on this, all right?
Yeah.
So they do run a pretty nice little game here on the inside, but Mitch doesn't pass the guy off quickly enough to Boatker, so he can't recover for Darrell Williams' guy. It's pretty technical, but you'd have to go back and look at it from the end zone. So they have a problem up front. It's a good game, and it's a hard game to trade. So they failed at that up front. But if Josh is on the F instead, the front of the F instead of the back of the F, then he might have a chance to beat this guy, which goes back to this thing I was thinking about a while back before when we talked about some of the 7-man zero coverage stuff that we see. Josh is really pretty darn good at eluding a guy that's coming right up into his face.
Yes. So
if he's in the right position here, if he beats this free rusher, he might be able to leak out. Look, the variety of this play is never going to be good at the way it's kind of run here. Mitch doesn't respond quickly enough. Darrell does okay. He gets on his guy. But if Josh was already there, he wouldn't be stepping and throwing. He'd be tucking and running. And you got Zach Moss with a nice little block there. You got Boatker shutting down. It could be a 20-yard game.
Yeah, we're running out of time.
Everybody has a technique, including Josh, and Josh violated his technique.
Gotcha. And you had said that to me, and that was one of the things we talked about on the phone. Like, you had said that to me on the phone today, that like the quarterback has to work on his drop technique. That's something they work on every single day. So at some point in time, somebody's gonna have to correct that with him. This is the last one, and this one was confusing to me.
I did send a memo. I'm kidding.
To who?
About the drops, the depth of the drop.
Gotcha. So this is wild to me, and I would love to know, is this on Josh? Is this on Breida? Like, who is this last sack on? Because Josh is clear, like, bang, decleater. Like, the dude gets decleated. Breida's not, I know Breida's running the hot, but is he not responsible to chip that guy at all?
It's hard to know, right? So you would think, first of all, Josh he kind of has to know where his hots are, right? So the
Josh
quarterback,
he doesn't even know this guy's coming.
no. And I'm saying, so if Josh isn't looking at him, his expectation is he should be blocked. So as I look at this, I think Breida's got to put a hat on this guy, but his read could be something else, right? So we know it's a free release by the tight end. So is Breida's read the two inside guys and we let the outside guy go no matter what? Because he might be reading, go back to the snap. So, I mean, if I were coaching this play, it looks like you got Morse going left and it's 3 to block 4 in case the guy comes off the slot, but there's no way he's coming from there, right? So you have to choose at some point. And in this instance, you always go to the nearest tackle. You're not really going to slide right and put Boker in that position to try to press a guy who's already got inside leverage on him. So you're going to double on the left side. And now you got 2 guys manned up on the right. So if Breida's read is from the guy on the hash to the guy who came, then it's his fault. If he has no read, it's Josh's fault. But you just don't know. I mean,
Josh has to at least look that way to see if somebody's coming.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at Breida's helmet right now, and of course I can't see his eyes, but
he's looking towards the shield for sure.
So I'm thinking this is Breida's error on the read.
So they're gonna run it here in a second.
You pause it in 2 steps. Right there. So right now, I mean, he's got to see that guy. If he's responsible, well, first of all, just so everybody's aware, at this point in time, Breida can't get him. He can't redirect.
Right.
There's no way. I mean, people look at this and say, oh, he's just got to slide into his left and block. No, it's over already. He had to see this before he took that second step. He had to see this.
Why is Knox going to the second level instead of picking up that linebacker that's blitzing? Knox is running a route. That's right.
He's on a route.
Gotcha. And literally, dude, he comes off that corner. Where's it at? So like literally, like this ball is snapped. I'm sitting on the couch, and at the snap of the ball, I see him, and I'm like, look out.
It's great timing, though. I mean, he didn't give it away. That's great defense. I mean, he came from depth without giving it away. Usually those guys creep a little bit more. I mean, he had like 1 creep step, but not too bad.
Right.
Yeah, and that concludes our weekly breakdown of the plays, both good and bad. If you agree with me, ping me on Twitter. If you don't, keep it to yourself.
Looking forward to the Colts game. So what are your opinions? Have you watched much of the Colts?
I haven't watched. Look, between UCLA football, South Point High School football, U of A football, and the Buffalo Bills, man, I haven't seen much of the Colts. I've always liked Carson Wentz. I don't know if he's going to be the guy ever. But I think the key to this game is 100% our offensive line play and our tight ends.
Yeah.
That is the key to the game.
Yeah, this game is going to be tough. I mean, you're talking about a guy in Frank Reich who was the offensive coordinator for Carson Wentz when Carson was good with the Eagles, his first couple seasons there. So it's impressive to me that Reich was like, you know what, the Eagles are letting this guy go, and I know how to make him play good. Right. Like I know how to scheme him, and he has. And Carson Wentz has been playing very decent football. I think this football team is better with Carson Wentz than they were with Phillip Rivers. They're scary, and I'm at the top of I want Nyheim Hines at the end of the season. I want Nyheim Hines in a Buffalo Bills uniform because he's big, he's fast, he's a determined and intentional runner. He's basically Antonio Williams with Matt Breida speed, which is crazy to think about. But this is going to be a challenge. They've got a great defense. Quentin Nelson is on that offensive line, who's probably going to be a Hall of Famer in this league. This is going to be a fun game.
He's back from his injury. Didn't he have a foot injury?
Yeah, he's back. He's back. So it's going to be basically Ed Oliver versus him, 1-on-1 all day long.
Well, depending on where the tight end lines up.
Correct. Right. So, but with that, I think we're going to wrap this thing up. We're about 5 minutes over time, but that's not too bad, right? It's not too bad.
What does that mean overtime? Like, are we going to get in trouble? Do we have to go to bed early?
No, there's just like to keep it to an hour. So nothing major. We've had a solid number of people here on the Off Tackle with John Fina show, brought to you by Q42 on the Buffalo Rumblings multicast network. Do me a favor before you jump off, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, tackle that like button, as Jay Spence the King said. Any final closing thoughts there, John?
Yeah, there's always better days ahead, right? Even when you play well, even when you don't play well. So, keep your head up, Bills Mafia. Go easy on some of your players. Try to think constructively, focus on the positive, send out the good vibes, make the karma go around, and beat the damn dolts. Did I say that wrong?
Beat the brakes off the Colts. Beat the brakes off the Dolts. I don't know. Yeah, something like that. But I don't care. Beat the horseshoes off them. Beat them into the ground.
So brakes. The horses don't have brakes. I don't even get that.
All of a sudden, he's getting super technical on me. Anyway.
It's a good time. Hey, Joe, it's a great time in the show. I love breaking down the film. Hopefully, the listeners are, if you don't like us breaking down the film when you listen to the pod, tell us to cut it out because you can't see it, and we won't. We'll still do whatever the hell we want. But we appreciate the input. Not really. We love having you on the show. Hey, party like it's fall in Buffalo, and let's root for our beloved Buffalo Bills, as I like to call them. And have a great week, everybody out there. Be good to somebody, do a good turn to somebody else, and go out and buy some Q42 barbecue sauce.
You won't regret it. Joe Miller, John Fina, Off Tackle Show with John Fina, brought to you by Q42. Go Bills.
Go Bills.